Greetings, and welcome to Arcana Analysis, where we invite you into the Velvet Room to unlock the secrets of the Arcanum and the bonds they encompass. In this very special episode, we'll be discussing the World Arcana. The World is the 21st and final major arcana, following Judgment. The World is in some senses the ultimate card within a tarot deck. As such, it carries many meanings: completion, fulfillment, perfection, wholeness, and more. All potential readings are united by a single theme: achievement. First and foremost, the world is the culmination of effort and hardship, the virtue gained through great undertaking and long quests. It is success incarnate. Let one thing be certain: the world does not represent a positive outcome that stems from pure chance. It is always an earned victory. The world is the realization of a long-held goal, an ideal one has been fighting for a long time. The world is not given, it is created. And in Persona, it is the person you become at the end of a long journey. The world is only ever encountered at the end of the game, when the player has guided the protagonist to the best possible outcome. It represents the hero coming into their own and embodying their most perfect self. Their actions throughout the game have forged and refined them, bringing them to recognize and encompass a virtue that is the beating heart of their adventure. While this arcana is sometimes gifted to the protagonist by Igor or his assistants, the act is merely a formality. The world cannot be bestowed, it must be earned. And so, by the time the protagonist receives this arcana, they have already begun to carry it within themselves. Throughout each journey, they become the totem of an ideal, one that defines their mission and imposes the dark forces that smother their existence. Throughout each game, the protagonist ceaselessly works to better not only themselves, but the people around them. The social links and confidants forged enrich the hero and cultivate their virtue through a universe blighted against it. The world is a summation of the path and people that come to define a life, and they return to the protagonists at journey's end to bestow what power is needed to banish evil.
The world of Persona 3 begins as one steeped in fatalism and fear. The mysterious apathy syndrome plagues the populace, and the Dark Hour presents the hero and their allies with an unnatural and unknown frontier of malice and danger that they must confront, lest innocent bystanders face the wrath of an unseeable threat. Death is the defining force in the protagonist's world. Their journey begins as they stumble into the Dark Hour, the crowd surrounding them instantly morphed into upright coffins. Amidst the macabre fixtures of this darkened landscape are monstrous creatures born from the manifestation of death, referred to simply as shadows. The only haven the protagonist may find is inhabited by Cease, an organization working to destroy shadows and eliminate the Dark Hour. The members of this elite team are hardly ordinary. Each has the incredible psychic ability to summon a persona, but in order to do so, they must press a handgun-shaped device to their heads and pull the trigger. Every time they head into battle, the members of Cease must stare down the barrel and embrace their own demise. The source of the Dark Hour is linked to Tartarus, an immense tower that stretches skyward towards the moon. Tartarus is best known within Greek myth as an abyss within the underworld where souls wander eternally. Aptly so, Cease's journey through Tartarus is equal parts perilous and soul-crushing. Yet as their journeys in the night progress, so too do the members of Cease open up to the protagonist, each revealing their own troubled relationship with mortality. Through their interaction, each works through their traumas and learns to accept what has come to pass. These resolutions quite literally empower the members of Cease, unshackling them from the immense pressure that had been put on them by their fear of death. Though the expeditions in Tartarus are long and arduous, the heroes persevere together, no longer isolated and afraid. They overcome the supernatural and the mundane, even banding together to fight on despite the loss of one of their own. But above it all is a final challenge that rivals all others: the Night Mother and the bringer of the fall, Nyx. This primordial being threatens to bring about the end of all things, and even puppets Death himself to act as her shepherd into the world. Any lesser group would have been crushed under the weight of this encounter, but the protagonist and their friends have learned to not only accept death, but to embrace the joys of life as well. Though Nyx proves to be formidable, she is not undefeatable. To save the world and protect countless lives, our protagonist accepts and embraces their own demise, sealing away this ancient evil. Their final, selfless act embodies the journey as a whole, encompassing the bittersweet feeling that comes with passing on. Yet despite the end being in sight, they don't run or hide. To embrace one's death so that others may live is an impossible burden to bear, but it does not undo the joys that came with living. This is how Persona 3's iteration of the world is achieved, not through an ultimate, selfless sacrifice, but through the understanding that death is part of life, that it cannot destroy the meaningful connections and memories that were made. Those experiences are what make life worth living. The Latin phrase memento mori is often associated with Persona 3 and used as a way to encapsulate the game's themes. It translates to remember that you die, which, much like this third entry in the Persona series, is often read as nihilistic at a surface level. But the culmination of all the pain and suffering in this game's journey, every loss, betrayal, and sacrifice, they don't exist to exemplify futility. Persona 3's world and Memento Mori exist to remind us that the end is in sight, that the finish line is fast approaching. All the same, every person has an opportunity to make the most of their time, and the time of those around them. So remember that you die, so that you may continue to live. That is how you may achieve this version of the world.
The fourth entry in the Persona series has a far more chipper tune than its predecessor. Where the third begins in a place of apathy, Persona 4 starts with intrigue and attention. Our story follows a protagonist who moves out to the countryside town of Inaba. On his first night in town, the protagonist dreams of a foggy plain where he gains the power to use a persona and confronts a figure hidden in the mist. The figure ultimately escapes, leaving the protagonist with his first set of questions. What is this strange world? What are the nature of these persona? And of course, who was hiding from him, just out of sight? Like many communities, Inaba has its share of urban legends. Unlike many communities, their legend, the Midnight Channel, proves to be real. The protagonist and his friends witness a woman on the Midnight Channel. Only moments after sharing this discovery, the idyllic image of an easygoing, tight-knit community is swiftly torn apart when it becomes the backdrop to a duo of strange murders, wherein the victims are left strung up on telephone poles. This time, it's the entirety of Inaba that is left wondering. Who killed these women, and why? How could something so gruesome be done? And what's the nature of the mysterious Midnight Channel? Quickly, the protagonist finds themselves engulfed in a world of mystery and hungry intrigue. Shaken to its very core, Inaba yearns for answers, and people are left clawing at rumors and speculation. Though it starts at a deficit, the binding virtue of Persona 4 is truth, and the entirety of the game is based around its pursuit. However, this task is not as simple as finding a suspicious person or motive. Conjecture and denial obfuscate the truth of all matters like a thick fog, and in order to solve the murders and save the sleepy town, the protagonist must cut through endless deception. Persona 4 shows that this mist of confusion can easily come to settle in the minds of normal people. Each of the characters in the party struggle against their shadows, reflections of themselves made up of the traits they deny, and based upon the Jungian theory of the same name. These shadows can be annoying, embarrassing, or downright disturbing. They're the worst of their respective owners, and each feels deep shame and anger when exposed thoroughly by their doppelganger. However, their attempt to hide or reject their shadows are futile. No matter how upsetting they may be, these are distilled truths, undeniable pieces of their being that must be accepted. Though a noble goal, truth is often uncomfortable and difficult to swallow. However, characters find themselves literally and metaphorically stronger when they come to accept themselves. This is true of the social links outside the main party as well. Other residents of Inaba are struggling in their own lives, facing off against the hard realities of the world, but eventually finding solace in the protagonist's company and advice. In the process, the residents of Inaba find the strength to face off with difficult truths, coming to accept themselves and others in the process. The protagonist's journey through Inaba over the course of a year seems to meander, but it all leads to greater gained insight and courage. When they and their friends are finally faced with a supposed answer to the murders, they are able to see the deceit at play and break through to the actual culprit, Toru Adachi, a local police officer and family friend. Once again, the truth is difficult and horrifying, but denying it would do no good. They must swallow the truth and push forward to dispel the fog that allowed such atrocities to happen. However, this is not where the protagonist comes to embody the world. A local disaster has been averted, but there is a greater answer still hidden. In the very appropriately named True Ending, the hero delves into the source of the Midnight Channel and their persona. The true mastermind is the goddess Izanami. In mythology, Izanami was a great mother goddess who eventually died in childbirth. Heartbroken over her loss, her husband Izanagi traveled to Yomi, the land of the dead, to rescue her. By the time he arrived, Izanami had already joined the dead. But so overcome was she with the thought of new life that she lied to her husband, bidding him to close his eyes until they'd return to the land of the living. However, Izanagi could not abide, and when he looked upon her, he found that Izanami was already a rotting corpse, riddled with maggots and vermin. Realizing he was too late, Izanagi ran, angering the goddess to her core. In Persona 4, the rotted form of Izanami is revealed by the Orb of Sight, invoking her rage and resulting in her use of 1,000 curses on each of the party members, condemning them to Yomi. However, the protagonist is able to return. Her power has always been built on lies and deception, and their showdown is the result of straight-cutting pursuit and acceptance. They have obtained the world through their commitment to finding the truth of all matters, and they're able to manifest Izanagi no Okami and defeat the goddess with myriad truths, finally freeing their friends and Inaba from her rule. The truths found in Persona 4 are terrible. They're disgusting, they're shameful and fierce. They force the player to wonder if truth is really worth all the pain it inflicts. Reality is not something that can be ignored, and we can only grow when we accept even our worst traits and allow ourselves to be known by others. In turn, the world can only heal when the fog of deceit is lifted. Virtuous truth is what allows beauty to return to the TV world and happiness to return to Inaba and all of its residents.
With our journeys through truth and acceptance explored, we approach our final destination, for now. Whereas the other entries in the Persona series opt to start their stories at the very beginning, Persona 5 opens in media res, with a high-stakes casino heist. Our protagonist is revealed to be the leader of a criminal group, here to steal a very valuable item, but something goes wrong and our lead is captured, taken into police custody. Here in the seedy underbelly of a police precinct do we get our first look at the thematic core of this title. Despite being a teenager, a child really, the police are unrelenting in their assault, beating and harassing the boy. Though he is convicted for numerous crimes, we can't help but sympathize with the thief. These supposed men of the law are clearly criminals in their own right. As the protagonist is interrogated, we are taken back to the very beginning of his journey, to the choice that set him on this path. After witnessing a woman being assaulted by a man in a suit, the hero intervenes by delivering a swift punch to the man. It just so happens that this abusive, inebriated man is a politician who doesn't hesitate to press charges. Though his report of the incident is grossly over-exaggerated, the police are eager to comply with a man of his stature, sentencing the protagonist to a 1-year probation in Tokyo. In the city, our hero falls in with a number of other outcasts, each subject to some form of harassment from a figure of authority. This persecution ultimately helps our protagonist discover another world, a place known simply as the Metaverse. There, the corrupt desires of people manifest palaces, large fortresses built on their perception of the real world. In this metaverse, the outcasts are no longer powerless. They are capable of fighting back against their oppressors, changing their hearts for the better. All they need is to steal a treasure, a priceless item buried deep in their mark's unconscious mind that acts as the heart of their cruelty. Together, this group of rebels don masks and begin working within the metaverse, dubbing themselves the Phantom Thieves. But for every bit of good they do, more of the world's injustices are revealed. Whether it be a school, a corporation, the police, or the government, no position of power is free from corruption. Alone, each member of the Phantom Thieves has suffered because of the unjust world, but by banding together, they are able to break free from their shackles and rebel against the powers that be. In an effort to fix the world, they first have to destroy it, breaking unnecessary or unjust rules in order to show how shallow they really are. For this reason, each member of the Phantom Thieves is capable of wielding a persona, one that embodies a famous thief or outlaw. When the protagonist first meets their allies, each wears a mask, a facade put on for the rest of the world. When they embrace rebellion, their newfound freedom gives each thief a chance to explore who they really are, what they want from this world, or how they intend to get it. In doing so, the protagonist helps reveal the true rebellious spirit lying dormant within each member of his team, allowing their personas to embody the essence of famous tricksters of myth. To be a trickster is to turn the laws of the world on their head, and to carve one's own path. These tricksters intend to rebel against the systems that be in order to change the world for the better. After changing countless hearts and gaining some substantial notoriety, the thieves are targeted by the police, bringing us to the moment we witnessed at the very start of this journey. Now with context, we know the thieves have been betrayed by one of their own. Someone has been working in the shadows and using the power of the metaverse to enact the will of a cruel politician. The same politician that accused the protagonist of assault. The traitor and the politician have taken countless lives and ruined many others, all in the pursuit of more power. So the Phantom Thieves do what they do best. They band together to reclaim the metaverse and change the heart of this cruel, corrupt ruler. Having fought injustice at every level, the work of the Phantom Thieves appears to be over. Yet corruption and evil are still ever present, and the general public pays no mind. There's one final tyrant that the thieves have yet to face, one more powerful than any other. The demiurge, Yaldabaoth, is responsible for maintaining the cruel systems of power in place. This god of control intends to maintain the current order of things at any cost, even if this means immeasurable suffering stays the norm. In order to truly free the world from its shackles, the Phantom Thieves must quell corruption at its highest level by striking down God themselves. Doing so is no easy task, but it is accomplished through the collective work of all those who stand against injustice, through the wills of those who wish to change the world for the better. The hero unlocks the world by freeing society from its corrupt shackles and destroying the God King that forged them. Rebellion can often seem like a futile effort, an uphill battle with no end in sight. Yet, by banding together with the like-minded, even the most powerful of adversaries can be defeated. Persona 5's version of the world places its emphasis on this idea of true rebellion, to fight back against unjust systems for the betterment of all lives. There were countless points at which the Phantom Thieves could have hung up their masks and given up the fight, but they did not settle for less than a universal change. Corruption may be ever present, but so long as there are those willing to fight to their last breath for the sake of freedom, then the world will always be within their grasp.
That concludes our examination of the World Arcana. The world is truly the ultimate arcana, but it's not one that can easily be obtained. Only by following lofty and ambitious ideals with a whole heart can one ever hope to achieve it. It will never come simply. It must be earned through blood, sweat, and tears, by gracious intentions and steadfast follow-through. The world represents a refined virtue, the perfect crystalline jewel that is born from hope, molded by companionship, and purified over the course of a long journey. The world is completion. It is achievement. It is the sweet sign of victory and the fulfillment of one's mission and purpose. But it is also the mark of a journey's end. We hope you've enjoyed your stay with us in the Velvet Room, and we thank you for listening. Now, we bid you adieu.